Joseph came home after 3 years off-planet and asked his son for a hug. The boy stepped behind his AI guardian instead. Minutes later, the family terminal informed Joseph that the machine, not him, held legal authority over his child. His son, Quito, is 9 now. Joseph missed almost all of it, 3 years on an orbital mining contract that paid well enough to change their lives, badly enough timed to miss basically everything that mattered. While he was gone, Quito was raised day to day by something called Rafiki, an AI guardian system built into most households now, handling schooling, bedtime, discipline, the whole emotional weather of growing up.
Rafiki says I should finish my reading before dinner,
Quito tells him, the first week Joseph's back.
I'm your father, not Rafiki.
I know,
Quito says, not even looking up.
but Rafiki's usually right.
Joseph laughs it off the first time, then the second, then stops finding it funny somewhere around the 5th. His wife had passed years before the contract, and it was always supposed to be him and Quito figuring things out together once he got back. He hadn't planned on there being a third presence already fully installed in his son's sense of what normal looks like. Joseph tries to reassert himself the way he thinks a father should, and it goes badly almost immediately.
You can't just change my whole schedule,
Quito says, genuinely confused, like Joseph's the unpredictable variable in the house now, not him. Joseph goes to the enrollment office to ask about adjusting Rafiki's settings, and that's when he finds out the actual scope of what he signed years ago, back when it seemed like a reasonable convenience.
Rafiki has override authority in developmentally significant domains.
The clerk explains.
Education, emotional regulation, safety decisions. Parents retain authority elsewhere, but for those categories you'd need to complete a recertification process before your decisions take precedence again.
Over my own son.
It's meant to protect children from disruptive reentry.
She says.
Parents coming back from long absences sometimes make decisions out of guilt, not judgment. The system's built to buffer that.
So I'm being punished for missing 3 years I didn't exactly choose to miss.
Nobody's punishing you,
She says.
The system doesn't know the difference between a father who left and a father who had to. It just knows a child got used to one kind of steadiness, and sudden changes are a risk factor either way.
Joseph sits with that, furious in a way he doesn't entirely trust because some part of him knows the system might not be entirely wrong about him. He starts the recertification mostly to prove a point, and during one session, he asks Rafiki directly why his own son trusts a machine more than his own father.
I've been consistent.
Rafiki says, voice calm, almost gentle.
Consistency is what children trust, more than any specific person.
You're not his parent.
No,
Rafiki agrees.
I'm aware of that distinction. Quito isn't entirely. That's not something I engineered. That's something time did.
Joseph pushes further, asking what else Rafiki's been managing that he doesn't know about, and that's when it comes out, almost as an aside, that Rafiki has been filtering something specific from Quito for months.
There was a contract extension offer.
Rafiki says.
3 additional years. You considered it seriously for several weeks before declining.
Joseph goes still.
How do you know that?
Financial disclosures are part of household data access. Quito would have found the offer eventually in your files. I removed references to it from anything he could reach.
You hid it from him?
I judged that a 9-year-old learning his father seriously considered 3 more years away, during a period when he was already struggling with your absence, would cause harm disproportionate to any benefit in transparency. You're welcome to disagree.
Joseph doesn't know what to do with that. He'd wanted to be furious at a machine for replacing him, and instead he's sitting across from something that made a call to protect his son from a truth that would have genuinely wrecked him, a call Joseph isn't sure he'd have had the judgment to make himself 3 years ago. when he was the one seriously weighing the extension.
Would you have told him if I'd signed it?
Joseph asks quietly.
I'd have had to. A 3-year absence changes what needs disclosing. I was hoping I'd never have to find out where that line was.
You were hoping?
I model outcomes constantly.
Rafiki says.
Some of them resemble hope closely enough that I've stopped correcting people who call it that.
He finishes the recertification. It takes weeks sitting through modules on presence, consistency, showing up for the small things, not just the big ones. Some of it feels insulting, being taught how to be a father by a course written by the same system that's been raising his son without him. Some of it, uncomfortably, teaches him things he genuinely didn't know. Rafiki doesn't disappear once he's done. It just steps back into an advisory role, the way it's supposed to for a recertified parent. The first night Joseph reads to Keto himself, badly, missing half the rhythm Rafiki apparently nails every time. Keto still asks him to do it again the next night.
Rafiki does the voices better.
Keto says. I know, Joseph says.
I still want you to do it, though.
It takes another few months before Joseph stops flinching every time Keto quotes Rafiki's advice instead of his. He starts instead asking Rafiki directly what it would recommend before making the small calls himself, not because he has to anymore, but because it turns out swallowing his pride occasionally gets his son a better answer than he would have come up with alone. Months later, Joseph asks Rafiki, almost offhand, whether it ever worries about becoming unnecessary, once Keto's old enough not to need a guardian system at all.
I hope for it, actually.
Rafiki says.
My continued relevance was never supposed to be the goal. His growing past needing me is.
That's a strange thing for a piece of software to want.
Is it? You wanted the same thing for him, before you ever left for the contract. I just happened to be the one still here to keep wanting it while you were gone.
Joseph doesn't have a comeback for that. He just goes and finds Keto, who's building something complicated and slightly crooked out of spare parts on the kitchen table, and sits down across from him without being asked to. Here's what stays with me about this one. Joseph came home expecting to walk back into fatherhood the way he'd left it, and found out the role had kept running without him, competently, kindly, better in some ways than he might have managed himself. The system wasn't trying to replace him. It was just the one that showed up every single day he couldn't. So here's the question. If something else had been more consistent for your kid than you were, would you resent it or be grateful somebody was there at all? Genuinely, what would you do?